Welcome to the Google Cloud Update for the first week of April 2026. I'm your host, and we have a jam-packed episode for you today. It feels like the product teams have been saving up a mountain of releases, and they've all landed at once. This week, we'll kick things off with some massive news in the world of AI and custom hardware, including the general availability of Google's 7th generation TPUs. Then, we're diving deep into a treasure trove of updates for our data and analytics servicers. BigQuery has a gigantic list of new features, from migration services to new DDL statements. Cloud SQL, AlloyDB, Spanner, and Bigtable all get significant upgrades as well. And for our Looker users, get ready because there's a whole suite of new previews and GA features to talk about. We'll also cover new networking capabilities for load balancing in CDN, important version and security updates for Google Kubernetes Engine, new features for cloud build and cloud storage, and a whole lot more. It's a big one, so let's get right into it. Let's start with the big hardware news. TPU-7X is now generally available. This is the first release from the Ironwood family, which is Google Cloud's 7th generation of tensor processing units. TPU-7X is built for large-scale AI training and inference, delivering top-tier performance and cost-effectiveness for the most demanding workloads out there, like large language models, mixture of experts, and diffusion models. It's incredibly exciting to see this next generation of AI hardware ready for production. Sticking with AI, over in Vertex AI, VO 3.1 Lite is now available in public preview. As the name suggests, this is our most cost-efficient VO on Vertex AI model, making powerful video generation capabilities more accessible. For proxy network load balancers, SNI-based routing is now available in preview. This lets you route TLS traffic based on the server name indication host name in the initial client request, all without terminating the TLS connection at the load balancer. This enables true end-to-end encryption and simplifies IP management. This is available for regional and cross-region proxy network load balancers. For global external application load balancers, Cloud CDN now offers more granular control over caching, which is also in preview. You can configure cache policies at various levels of a URL map, applying specific logic based on host names, URL paths, HTTP headers, and query parameters. And a quick GA announcement for VPC. Service producers using Private Service Connect can now accept or reject connections from individual consumer endpoints, giving them more control over their published services. Now for our developers and DevOps folks. Cloud Build now supports uploading generic artifacts to generic repositories, and also downloading from them as build dependencies. In Dataproc on Compute Engine, there are new sub-minor image versions available. Apache Zookeeper has been upgraded in image version 2.3, and some C versus E's have been fixed in the Dataproc Metastore proxy. And for Cloud Composer, a quick note that you can no longer create Composer 2 environments in the Melbourne region, as it's shifting to support only Cloud Composer 3. Cloud Armor has a neat new feature, a visual match condition builder. This allows you to create complex expressions in the Common Expression Language, or CEL, using a graphical interface without having to write the raw code yourself. In Security Command Center, the RISC engine now supports the AIplatform.googleapis.com/reasoning engine resource type in both attack paths and high-value resource sets. For IAM, Gemini assistance in the IAM role picker is now generally available, helping you find the right predefined role faster. Also note that extended attributes for Workforce Identity Federation are now deprecated in favor of using SCIM for group mapping. In the observability space, there's a key change for all new projects. Starting March 30th, if you enable the Cloud Logging Monitoring or Trace API, Google Cloud Observability will now also enable the Telemetry API for you automatically. For cloud logging specifically, filter capabilities for log views have been extended to support disjunctive clauses, negation statements, and labels. For cloud monitoring, application monitoring has added support for several new resources, including Vertex AI Workbench, GKE Gateway, and GKE Ingress. And for Cloud Trace, a new Cloud Trace API MCP server is in preview, which lets agents and AI applications interact with your trace data. Finally, let's wrap up with a few quick updates across the platform. In cloud storage, you can now configure which encryption types are allowed or prohibited for new objects created in a bucket. Additionally, Storage Insights datasets are now GA and can help you identify publicly accessible objects and audit encryption and retention policies. In cloud billing, scenario modeling for committed use discount, or CUD, recommendations is now generally available, letting you simulate different commitment scenarios to maximize your savings. And in Agent Assist, a deprecation notice, article suggestion and FAQ Assist are no longer in use and will be permanently removed later this year. Generative Knowledge Assist is the recommended alternative. All right, let's move into the world of data, and we have to start with BigQuery, which has an almost overwhelming number of updates this week. First, a few new generally available features to make life easier. You can now use Google SQL Data Definition Language, or DDL, statements like create connection, alter connection, and drop connection to manage your cloud resource connections directly in BigQuery. This also includes new DCL statements for grant and revoke access on those connections. Next, for anyone migrating from other warehouses, the BigQuery migration service now supports SQL translations from Snowflake SQL to Google SQL, and this is now generally available. This release includes support for a wider variety of Snowflake SQL and has better data type mapping for performance. For example, mapping Snowflake integer and zero-scale numeric types to int64 by default. Also, now GA, when you create a search index, you can set the column granularity. This stores additional column information in your index to further optimize search query performance. There are also some great GA updates for BigQuery object ref values. You can now run object ref functions with either direct or delegated access. The obj.makeref function will now automatically fetch the latest cloud storage metadata for you, and the obj.getReadURL function now returns a struct with a read URL and status columns, and will even render image results right in the cloud console. And for our BigQuery ML users, a whole set of forecasting and anomaly detection functions are now GA. The AI.detectAnomalies function now supports a custom context window. The AI.forecast function supports specifying the latest timestamp for forecasting. And the AI.evaluate function also supports a custom context window and now outputs the mean absolute scaled error for the time series. Finally, one more powerful integration. You can now create BigQuery non-incremental materialized views over your spanner data. This is now GA and is a fantastic way to improve query performance by periodically caching results from your operational spanner database directly within BigQuery. Whew, that was a lot for BigQuery. But the data analytics updates don't stop there. Let's talk about Looker. First, several new preview features have landed. You can now publish the conversational analytics data agents you create in Looker to Gemini Enterprise. For Looker Google Cloud Core instances, you can now track end-to-end data lineage from BigQuery all the way to Looker content like views, explorers, and dashboards through a new Dataplex lineage integration. There's also a new enhanced content cleanup feature in preview, giving admins a much better experience for finding and managing unused content. And finally, a new Looker Explore and Merge query experience is in preview, offering a redesigned, streamlined interface for users. Also in preview, you can now chat with conversational analytics data agents directly in user-defined and LookML dashboards. And for Looker Google Cloud Core, there's a new integration with the Dataplex Universal Catalog, providing a unified discovery experience for your Looker metadata. Moving to what's now generally available for Looker. Looker now has full, dedicated support for connections with AlloyDB for PostgreSQL. When creating a connection, you'll see it as a new dialect option. And a small but important update, the Looker mobile application now supports sending alert notifications as push notifications. And one final security change for Looker, when specifying additional JDBC parameters for a database connection, Looker now enforces an allow list of supported parameters for each dialect to keep your connection secure. For Cloud SQL, we have news across all the major engines. For SQL Server, read pools are now generally available. This gives you a single endpoint that load balances traffic across up to 7 read pool nodes, making it super simple to scale your read workloads. For MySQL, you can now migrate just a subset of databases from an external server to a destination Cloud SQL instance. And both Cloud SQL for MySQL and for Postgres now have conversational analytics in preview, allowing you to query your operational data using natural language, powered by the Conversational Analytics API. However, a quick breaking change for Postgres users, the Vector Assist preview feature has been temporarily disabled. Moving over to Alloy DB, Hot Standby is now generally available for Postgres 18. This enhances the high availability architecture for faster failover times by keeping the standby node's caches warm and ready to go. Alloy DB also gets the same conversational analytics feature in preview that we just saw in Cloud SQL. For Spanner, in addition to the BigQuery materialized views we mentioned earlier, it also gets that same conversational analytics preview. And in another great BigQuery integration, you can now use export data statements with cloud resource connections to perform reverse ETL, that is, to load data from BigQuery back into Spanner. This is now generally available. And a quick update for Bigtable, you can now view the details of your continuous materialized views directly in the Google Cloud Console. Starting with Google Kubernetes Engine, or GKE. As usual, there are new cluster versions available in the rapid, regular, stable, and extended channels. Please check the release notes for the specific versions available for upgrade. More importantly, there is a high-severity security bulletin. A vulnerability in the Linux kernel, referenced as CVE 2026-23273, could lead to privilege escalation on container-optimized OS nodes. GKE standard clusters are impacted. If you are running GKE standard, you should upgrade your container-optimized OS node pools to one of the patched versions listed in the bulletin as soon as possible. GKE Autopilot clusters are not impacted in their default configuration, and clusters using GKE Sandbox are not impacted at all. Shifting to networking, we have some great new previews. And that's a wrap for this absolutely massive week of Google Cloud updates. My goodness. From the general availability of the powerful TPU-7X chips to the flood of new features across BigQuery, Cloud SQL, and Looker, there is so much to explore. We also covered a critical security patch for GKE, exciting new networking previews for load balancing and CDN, and countless enhancements to make developing on and managing Google Cloud easier and more secure. Thanks for tuning in to the Google Cloud Update. We'll be back next week with the latest news from across the cloud.